like to call the meeting of the RTM to order, please. Could I ask all members to please take their seats? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January meeting of the RTM. Could I ask that we all please rise? The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask you to remain standing for just a moment to remember anybody who may have lost someone this week or any time that was very special to them. Thank you. Can I ask the clerk to call the roll?
John Donovan. Here. Michael Hurley. Here. Jay Lipp. Here. Gaylord Meyer. Here. Eric Sunman. Pete Ambrose. Here. Catherine Burstein. Here. Nathaniel Schindler. Here. Jeff Steele. Here. Keith Varian. Here. Ed Bateson. Here. Laura Devlin. Here. Hank Ferentz. Here. Dave McKenzie. Here. Mary McCullough. Here. Heather Dean. Present. Joe DiMartino. Here. Bill Gerber. Here. Joe Palmer. Here. Cindy Waldron. Here. Bill D'Amica. Here. Josh Garskoff. Here. Lauren O'Brien. Ruth Smay. Here. Carol Way. Here. Julie Gottlieb. Here. Alan Marks. Here. Sheila Marmion. Here. Jay Walk. Here. Liz Zezima. Here. Jen Hochberg. Here. Kevin Hopkins. Here. Eric Newman. Here. Phil Pierce. Here. Hal Schwartz. Here. Catherine Braun. Here. Alex Durrell. Here. Jason Lee. Tom McCarthy. Here. Jeff Millerano. Here. Pam Iacono. Here. Ellen Jacob. Here. Lori McArdle. Here. Carol Pontrelli. Here. Chris Timniak. Here. Brian Caffarelli. Here. Brian Farnan. Here. Ray Newberger. Here. Bill Perugini. Here. Bruce Ryan. Here.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda tonight is item number 2, which is to hear an address of the state of the town by our first selectman, Mr. Tetra.
Wow, good evening, Madam Moderator, RTM members, elected officials, and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on our town. I'd like to publicly say thank you to my colleagues on the Board of Selectmen, Kristen McCarthy-Vahey and Kevin Kiley, for their hard work and dedication to our town. I also want to thank the members of all the boards and commissions, all our elected officials, and all of our volunteers who give so freely of their time and expertise in keeping our town special. And I especially want to thank all of our department managers and their teams for their dedication and commitment to our town. We've had the chance to see how hard our employees work to protect and serve our community and improve our town. We really need to take time to say thank you to all of them over the course of the year. I also want to take this opportunity to look back on the past 2 years and look ahead to the next 2. It was just about 2.5 years ago that I took office, and a lot has been accomplished in that time. To put the last 2 years in perspective, I think it's best to start reflecting on a vision for the town. While I recognize there may be different perspectives, here's how I see our town. We are a family-friendly and neighborhood-oriented community that values our top quality school system. We value living in a safe and secure community. We work diligently to provide opportunities for our seniors to be able to afford to stay in our town and to have plenty of activities and services to make them want to stay here. We have a vibrant local economy. We are a destination for culture, the arts, dining, entertainment, and shopping for our region. We're a leader in sustainability, especially in the use of green and renewable energy options. We do our best to be responsible and protect the environment. We work daily to strengthen our financial foundation and make responsible decisions for our future. We're committed to planning for and meeting our long-term financial obligations. We value our historic character, the important roles our citizens have played in shaping our town's rich history. We strive to keep our heritage alive for future generations. We value and respect the open space, our parks, our beaches, and recreational opportunities our town provides. We want Fairfield to be a good value for all who live here today and tomorrow. When I looked at all we've been through the last 2 years, I realized how much we've bonded together as a community. We've overcome more challenges in the past 30 months than in any time most of us can remember. We met the challenge of completing the long-awaited Fairfield Metro train station. We discovered a cost overrun of over $7 million and reorganized the project to get it done on time. We met the state deadline and negotiated almost $3 million in additional funding to save our taxpayers money. We came close to being hit with a hurricane that we endured under the name of Storm Irene. We survived flooding and widespread power outages. We learned how to recover and how to better respond when storms come our way. That was followed by Storm Sandy, which hit us hard and changed our definition of a storm. We saw our town employees, especially fire, police, public works, health, the Board of Education, our library, and building departments work together protecting our residents and our property. We had fire, police, and public works employees literally risk their lives to save our residents, to save our neighbors. We saw our volunteers from CERT managing our shelter. And a 1,000-person volunteer beach cleanup team brought together by 3 self-motivated leaders and the power of social media. We saw the lessons learned from Irene get tested and proven under fire. The meaning of tragedy was hammered home on the events of December 14th. We came together to share their pain, their suffering of our neighbors in Newtown. We understood that a community doesn't end at a town border. We are still searching for some of the answers. We have learned that our world is different today, and we need to be prepared for events we never thought possible. Then came Storm Nemo and dumped more snow on us in one day than ever before, 36 inches in all, with drifts even higher. Storm of the century was getting to be an overused term. We had a chance to see our public works team in action as they rose to the challenge. They cleared 270 miles of town roads, including over 300 cul-de-sacs. Who knew we had that many? Even some of the state roads when they had time and it needed it, town parking lots and school parking lots. They left all that with only one question unanswered. Where did they put all that snow? Our police and fire emergency management teams were called upon once again to help in a Metro North train crash that sent 70 people to the hospital and shut down commuter service for 4 days. Our police and fire teams joined with Bridgeport in a unified and extremely well-managed joint response to that tragedy. We are seeing the cleanup work finally begin on Mill River. We have cleared the way for new commercial development, providing jobs and some much-needed tax revenue. It's a 2 to 3 year project, but it wouldn't have started without the cooperation and teamwork of our Conservation, Harbor Management, and Shellfish Commissions, working along with State DEEP, Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Exide, key town staff, and our neighborhood group, Fair Plan. These commissions worked almost 6 months in an unprecedented event, unanimously approved the revised remediation plan for our river. I want to say thanks to our state delegation, State Senator John McKinney, along with state reps Brenda Kupchak, Tony Wong, and Kim Fawcett, for their help and support in getting the state to pay attention to our needs. Our town came together to fight Aquarion's rate hike over our water. Residents, along with state and local elected leaders, attended meetings, wrote letters, and spoke out against the hike. Together, we were able to get the proposed rate hike cut by 2/3. And our town really led the way for our region in that. Nobody else came out as strongly as we did to save our taxpayers' money. We have overcome the finding of PCBs in Osborne Hill School. The BOE Central Office, our health department, as well as state and federal resources, provided the leadership to tackle this problem, mitigate the PCBs, and get our school back in service. as well as put together a long-term plan for this school and other facilities. We found mold in the basement of Fairfield Woods Branch Library. Again, through the efforts of our Public Works Department, the Health Department, and the library management team, we're able to have the problem identified and mitigated on a very timely basis with a minimum inconvenience to our residents. As I look back on these experiences in the past 2.5 years, I'm very grateful to be living in this community. Fairfield is a town filled with dedicated volunteers and employees at so many levels who are so willing to help when there's a need. We should be very proud of who we are and how special our town is. And looking at our school system, where would we be without an excellent school system? It is the reason my dad moved our family here 60 years ago. I'm not that old. Yeah, I am. It is one of the primary reasons our homes maintain and grow in value over the years. We have made education a top priority, with 55 to 60% of our annual budget going just to that purpose. We have invested heavily in new and improved school facilities. Our school system has been the cornerstone in supporting premium property values by attracting buyers to our town. We are committed to maintaining Fairfield as a top-performing school district and preparing our students for the future. We have new challenges going forward to keep our schools safe and secure. With the town, police, fire, and school administration working together, we'll be developing a comprehensive plan and specific proposals for enhancements to the physical security and safety in our schools, additional training for our students, staff, and educators, and proposals for costs associated with starting these improvements will be included as part of the overall budget presentation this year. In the area of economic development, it's no secret Fairfield is a hotspot for commercial ventures, especially new restaurants in our state. We have 5 to 8% commercial vacancy rate, one of the lowest in our county. We are an oasis amid the economic turbulence throughout the rest of the state. We have become renowned for the quality and diversity of our restaurants. We held our first restaurant week in 2012 and followed it up this past year with even a better one. Just check out the recent Connecticut Magazine ratings to get a feel for how special our restaurants here are. On a single day in July this past summer, we held our biggest Sidewalk Sale Days event ever, along with the Connecticut Bike Challenge and the Pequot Library Book Sale. There was truly something for everyone. You could literally hear the music as you drove through downtown Fairfield. A special thanks to those who didn't stop by the Ludlow High School Girls Swim Team Dunk Tank fundraisers. I got plenty wet without you. There were people everywhere, and after all, that's the real point of what we're doing. We want to bring more people to Fairfield and expose them to everything that's going on here and what a special place we are. We held our first ever holiday shop and stroll. This was very successful and looks to be a new Fairfield tradition. It was held throughout downtown, Southport, Greenfield Hill, and Grassmere. We look forward to expanding this next year, with merchants keeping shops open late, providing beverages and food for shoppers. We even had carolers walking the sidewalks and helping get everybody in the holiday spirit. We have been able to see this tremendous growth in the Fairfield Theater Company, or FTC as it's well known. It is bringing people from all over to downtown. Partnering with the Arts Place, they form a foundation of the arts and culture in our downtown. The FTC has proven to be a crucial piece of our renaissance in our downtown. Add in the Fairfield Library, the Fairfield Museum and History Center, and you can see the momentum continuing to build. We want Fairfield to continue to be a destination for shopping, dining, entertainment. We have established the Fairfield Arts Advisory Committee, chaired by Sherry Stenick and Alan Nair, to provide guidance and recommendations on how to continue to promote the arts throughout Fairfield. This past year could be one of the most significant in Fairfield history. This is the year that Jane's All-the-World Aircraft, the veritable Bible of the aviation industry, formally recognized and declared that Gustav Whitehead was the first to fly an airplane, and he did it here in Fairfield, August 14, 1901. This event took place a full 2 years ahead of the Wright brothers that flew in that vacation spot somewhere down south of here. We recognized it this past year with a proclamation, but we are working with our neighboring cities of Bridgeport and Stratford. He flew in those cities after Fairfield, but before Kitty Hawk. and the state to plan ongoing recognition. This has the potential to become a real economic boon to Fairfield and the region. So stay tuned for coming events. As you've seen from a recent Sacred Heart University survey, we continue efforts to find an entrepreneur or organization to renovate and restore life to the Fairfield Community Theater. Fame has come to Fairfield in the shape of the Fairfield Accelerator and Mentoring Enterprise. This is an innovative partnership in our town with Cleban Enterprises and Fairfield University. Entrepreneurs and their business plans are evaluated. Those selected have the opportunity to work with professors from Fairfield University School of Business and be mentored by successful business executives to give them the best chance of success. This is an excellent example of entrepreneurs helping nurture the next generation while creating jobs to help our economy. And it's happening all here, right in Fairfield. And as you may have heard, 2014 is Fairfield's 375th anniversary. We're going to celebrate all year long. We really need to give thanks to co-chairs Town Clerk Betsy Brown and Bob Hodnacki from Bankwell. I always call him Hojo. Saying his full name is so... Thanks for taking the lead in planning our celebration. They believed me when I said it was no work. And special thanks to their hardworking committee. A few highlights. You have seen the fire hydrants turned into painted redcoats by Fairfield of the Year, Gene Harrison. The Chamber of Commerce has a cake baking competition coming up in 2 weeks, with a winner getting to bake the official town birthday cake in the fall. The Fairfield Museum and History Center is hosting a reenactment of the burning of Fairfield and has a town-wide picnic coming up this summer. The FTC, the Fairfield Public Library, Fairfield University, Sacred Heart University, and Pequot Library are all participating. And you won't want to miss a special kosher barbecue coming to our town on September 7th. I'm dying to see that one. You can check all this out at the website www.fairfield375.com. While there are really too many events to mention, I do want to leave you with one very special one. Fairfield's biggest ever food drive, coming April 26th and 27th. We want everyone, every school, every team, every church, every synagogue, every organization, we're open to the RTM participating, coming together to give those that in need a birthday present. I can think of nothing more symbolic on our town's birthday than that we are giving rather than receiving presents. This represents our true volunteer spirit, the generosity that is part of our town's character and heritage. A special thanks to our own probate judge, Dan Caruso, for coming up with this idea. This is a chance to promote Fairfield, celebrate what is special about our town, and to have some fun. In the interest of full disclosure, I have challenged the mayors of Stratford and Milford, who are also celebrating their 375th anniversaries, that we will be, by any definition, hands down the town that has the most fun. Moving on to energy conservation and sustainability. Our town has been a leader in energy conservation. We are recognized for the second year in a row with a Green Coast Award for our efforts. We have a long list of accomplishments that save energy and save money for our town. We've installed over 200 LED lights in downtown and Southport train stations. We've installed lighting controls and LEDs in the main library. We've improved electric controls in Independence Hall. We've installed energy-saving tri-generation facility at the police station. We've installed a compressed natural gas filling station at our Public Works garage. We've installed electric vehicle charging stations at Sherman Green parking lot. We've installed diesel emission filters in our older DPW vehicles. We're participated in the Solarized Fairfield initiative, promoting implementation and use of photovoltaic systems, and a result have over 140 new PV installations on residential homes. We're making improvements to our water pollution control facility by providing variable speed blowers, LED lighting, and a new control system. We're installing a cogenerator at the water pollution control facility for electricity and heat. We've approved a microgrid project to lower costs and improve power supply reliability for fire headquarters, police headquarters, our emergency communications center, and Operation Hope. This RTM recently approved 6 photovoltaic installations to save energy costs and to improve our sustainability. We're also joining in the state Connecticut CPACE initiative to provide very low-cost funding for commercial property owners in Fairfield for installing cost savings and energy-efficient systems for their properties. All these projects and initiatives are designed to save money for the residential property owners, our commercial property owners, and our taxpayers, as well as help improve our environment. And I hope everyone realizes that Ed Bowman from our Public Works Department has played a key role in each of these initiatives. With respect to social services, senior services, and ADA initiatives, we have a goal to make everyone welcome in our town. We've added a new 14-passenger bus at the senior center fueled by compressed natural gas. We've completed a survey of seniors funded by a private donation to identify what services and programs should be provided at our senior center. The top 10 task force reported on their recommendations based on visits to neighboring senior centers. This is an excellent example of shared best practices. The RTM expanded our senior tax relief program, providing over $1 million in additional tax relief to help our seniors stay in Fairfield. This represented a 30% increase in funding. We now have expanded hours and days of operation at our senior center, including evenings and weekends. And we're using state grants to expand and improve ADA access to Jennings Beach, the Marina, the fishing pier, Sasco Beach, the Yacht Yard, and Southport Beach. Moving on to our financial standing, we continue to make significant improvements to our financial foundation. Over a year ago, Moody's rating agency recognized these actions by removing the negative outlook on our AAA rating. We now have the highest rating possible from all three credit agencies. Recently, Standard & Poor's reconfirmed our AAA rating and went on to rate our management as very strong. We have been able to refinance portions of our bonds twice in the last 2 years, saving literally millions in long-term interest payments. We've made significant progress in shoring up our town's financial reserves, in our unassigned fund balances, and our internal service fund. We have finally recovered all the monies we originally invested in the Madoff Fund. Bob Mayer has joined our town administration as Chief Fiscal Officer. Bob is a CPA with extensive experience in healthcare and employee benefits. These are two of the critical areas for our town to manage in the years ahead. I want to take a moment to recognize all the work and improvements that Mr. Mayer has made in the reporting and financial controls to assist our pension board in its work. The pension board meets monthly and is able to review cash flow projections along with investment performance at that time. We've identified the key drivers for our budget. These represent the multi-year commitments that drive our tax rate. With our continued focus and management on these expenses, we see them having less of an impact each year. We've established a town and Board of Ed safety committee to cut down on accidents and injuries in the workplace. This is a major education and training initiative to improve safety in our buildings. This year we are seeing the financial benefit of that with a lower workers' comp expense. We are working hard to manage the growth in our medical insurance and health care costs using increased employee participation, and we recently completed a bid process that helped lower these costs. We're working to manage our retirement benefits by both offering a 401A type option and increasing the cost sharing in retiree health care. We worked with our labor unions to settle the final 6 contracts that were unresolved when I took office. With their support and cooperation, we were able to take some significant steps towards managing our future costs. While we do expect to receive less state aid in the future, I did want to say thanks to our state delegation for their support in getting our town STEEP and other grant funding. In the area of capital projects and capital planning, we've implemented a comprehensive capital planning process that includes all projects proposed by the town and Board of Ed in one plan. These projects are mapped out with projected timing and costs so that we can clearly see the impact on our annual debt service. This has proven to be an invaluable management tool for helping us manage our debt and react to projects as we're approving them. And again, special thanks to CFO Bob Mayer in providing the enhanced support that makes that all work. We saw that all work in the spring when we looked at the Ludlow and Riverfield projects. looked at the impact of expanding the Ludlow School project, and then looking at what changes we can make by staggering the timing of other projects to keep our debt service in line with what the projections had been. So in that sense, that's the best example of how we can use this as a management tool going forward. With the pace of new projects having slowed down a bit this past year, we still have quite a few capital projects underway. And in the past 2 years, we've established building committees for Riverfield School, Sherman School, completed Phase 1, Osborne Hill expansion and PC mitigation, Fairfield Ward High School roofs, Fairfield Ludlow High School windows and core expansion, and the Penfield Pavilion. We have also established a new orientation process for our building committees to help them get up and running faster, educated on things like Robert's rules and FOI requirements, as well as become familiar with the support services provided by various town departments. Moving on to Storm Sandy follow-up. Our Public Works team did an exceptional job in the cleanup of our town from the beach area through clearing the downed trees in our more wooded neighborhoods. We held 2 panel discussions with FEMA and town building officials, and with Fair TV's help, we were able to get this much-needed information out to residents on a very timely basis to answer key questions in the wake of the storm about flood insurance, FEMA, and building codes. We held a public session with FEMA and Town Building Department at Riverfield School to further answer questions for our residents. We facilitated a FEMA office set up initially in Veterans Park and then later at our senior center with an SBA disaster loan office, putting these resources closer to our neighbors in the beach area. We updated our hazard mitigation plan with funding from the Greater Bridgeport Regional Council, including workshops for stakeholders, public sessions for feedback. This hazard mitigation plan will assist in qualifying town and residents for hazard mitigation grants from the state. We currently have over 70 applications from residents entered up at the state. The hazard mitigation plan will also qualify the town and residents for the community rating system. This program allows residents to obtain discounts on flood insurance. And with those rates going up as dramatically as they are, this should be a big help. We held an additional public session on hazard mitigation grants with state and town officials. We facilitated the establishment of an intake center at the senior center for owner-occupied housing grants for repair costs not covered by programs, other programs for Storm Sandy damages. And again, the goal was to bring these resources closer to our citizens. The outpouring of generosity in our community allowed us to set up a donation program through the town and Operation Hope for Storm Sandy victims with over $200,000 in contributions. We've given over $150,000 of that out at the moment. Special thanks to the Robin Hood Foundation and the Fairfield County Community Foundation for their very significant donations to the cause. We have ongoing projects in dredging, installing new and improved tidal gates, and beach sand replenishment. And based on our new hazard mitigation plan, we'll be evaluating additional and longer-term measures, from improving protection for the wastewater treatment plant, to raising the height of Pine Creek Dike, to expanding the dike system. This is all part of a longer-term plan to improve flood mitigation in our beach area. Our Parks and Rec Department continues to provide an extensive array of opportunities for our residents. Our youth sports programs are establishing a reputation for being some of the best in the country. Our American League Little Team played for the national title. One of our Pop Warner cheerleading squads competed and won the national title in their category. We have several teams, it seems almost every year, in baseball, softball, and football win their league and state titles. Thank you to all the parents, coaches, and volunteers that make these programs special. Our Parks and Rec Department has also initiated an innovative lease strategy that achieved the complete renovation of our tennis center and bubble at no cost to our town. On to our libraries. I really believe we have an incredible resource available to our residents. We have the Fairfield Public Libraries and the Pequot Library. They are much different today than the libraries I grew up with. They provide so much more than just a place to read and find books. They are truly community centers as sources of inspiration and knowledge, and as we saw a few times, a refuge from the storms. A real source of power, a place where we can go to be cool, or if need be warm. I can't think of a better initiative than the annual event, that the library holds to keep us all on the same page than the One Book, One Town program sponsored by Fairfield Library and shared with the Pequot Library. This program is all about generating a common experience and conversation for everyone in our town. This is all about bringing us together, and I encourage everyone to take part. In the area of communication and technology, we're using technology to improve our communication and information flow with our community. Our goal is to have more people both involved and informed. We will have an updated town website in the next few months. It will have a much improved format and be easier to use. It will have a lot more content and be user-friendly, and more user-friendly features to be more responsive to our residents. Our Facebook page continues to become more popular. In fact, we really have a Facebook community when you think about it, with pages for our fire department, police department, the senior center, and other departments in town, all aimed at improving the timeliness of information and the feedback for our community. During Storm Sandy, town, police, and fire department Facebook pages were a major source of information. Fair TV has grown and expanded with town financial support. It now offers live broadcasts, including tonight. It offers live telecasts on many of our board and commission meetings. The video on demand continues to allow for those that missed a meeting to view it at their convenience. We are enhancing our GIS system and capability. This graphical information system will help the town and our residents in day-to-day activities with better available information and maps. It will also be a big help during storm events. This is a project that is funded by the Greater Bridgeport Regional Council, so there is no additional cost to our taxpayers. We've implemented the Code Red system for our reverse 911 calls. This updated system allows cell phones, texting, and emails to be sent. This has proven to be far more valuable than the older generation system that used primarily landlines. If anyone hasn't registered their mobile phone or other line, I strongly encourage you to either go to the town website, click on Code Red, or call our police department, not the 911 number, to sign up now. As we look ahead on schools and security, we will have safe and secure schools. We are committed to excellence in education. On town security, we'll also work to ensure that all our public facilities are safe and secure. One of the stats that came out of our public safety meeting that was provided by our police department, that as much as we're focused on school security, and certainly the past few weeks with everything that's transpired, the stat is that 80% of the shootings take place outside of school. So we're going to have to address our town facilities as well as our school facilities. On education, on energy conservation, we'll continue to take the lead in conservation and lowering our costs and our usage. For our seniors, we'll continue to enhance the living experience for our seniors here in Fairfield. They have been an important part of our past. We want them to stay here and enjoy the present and the future. Parks and recreation. We'll continue to offer programs for residents of all ages to maximize their enjoyment of our town. In arts and culture, we'll work towards keeping Fairfield the place to come for shopping, dining, and entertainment, all while we celebrate our 375th anniversary. On communication, we'll work on the improved use of technology and our website to provide residents with more responsive and easy-to-use tools, improving our service levels. On financial stability, we are working on managing our expenses and our investments. This is and will continue to be a major focus for this administration. On flood mitigation and resiliency, we will continue to work to protect our beach area from storms and flooding. On tax appraisals, we are beginning to work on the 2015 revaluation. It will be more extensive than the last few. We're making every effort to ensure that it's as accurate as possible. On technology, we'll continue to work to improve service levels and productivity with the use of technology, from new tax collection systems to school bus cameras to new parking ticket systems to our new senior center membership system to our new GIS system and to our new website. We do have our challenges ahead. We will have our speed bumps to get over, but working together we'll find our way. I do want to repeat, as I've said in the past, as First Selectman, it is my intention to serve all the people of our town, from the students who need a safe environment for an excellent education, to our seniors on fixed incomes who wish to stay here, to our taxpayers who want quality services at reasonable rates, I'm committed to keeping Fairfield the best value in our state for residents and businesses. Thank you to all of you in Fairfield for your involvement, your volunteer spirit, and your support of our town. Thanks for the chance to talk tonight. One small request, if you could do that again next month when I'm feeling better and can appreciate that, that would be...
Thank you, Mr. Tetreault. As Mr. Tetreault said, he isn't feeling his best, so he may be leaving us early, just if you all be pre-warned. The next item on our agenda is to hear a report from the Blight Officer concerning condemnation and blight. We have a new Blight Officer who is present here this evening. He did speak to us before our subcommittee, a joint subcommittee meeting on Wednesday night. Representative Ambrose.
Peter Ambrose, District 2. I'd like to move this. Peter Ambrose, District 2. I'd like to postpone this matter, or move to postpone this matter, until the next session of the RTM, which I think is February 24th.
Thank you. I hear a second to that. Representative Iacona. All in favor? Mr. Conley, would you like to make a statement as soon as we vote? Okay. All in favor of the postponement until next month, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. That carries. Mr. Conley.
First, I'd like to thank everybody. I know what kind of job you are doing every single time you're here. I did this same job for 14 and a half years, so I really appreciate your indulgence here. I just took over as the Blight Officer, so I do not have a report. My first meeting was today. I can certainly answer a few questions, but I really don't have a handle on it yet, to be quite truthful. So any quick questions I could answer, I'm happy to oblige, but I have no report. So that's my report. Is that, can I go now? My truck was on autopilot here. I don't even know how I got here. So, any questions? Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Conley.
Great. Thank you so much. See you next month. I will have a report then. Thank you.
Obviously, I'm having a little trouble here this evening. I skipped the lease report, which was item number 3, to receive the report from the First Selectman or his designee on leases of town properties. And to make that report is our Town Attorney, Stanton Lesser.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good evening, all. For those of you who are new to this body, by ordinance, leases in this town are made in 2 ways. Typically, the First Selectman can negotiate all leases, but if they're more than 3 years, they come to this body for approval. If they're 3 years or less, then the First Selectman can execute the lease. So he negotiates the short-term leases and executes them. The ordinance provides that once a year, the First Selectman or his designee gives a report on the short-term leases. And that's what I'm here to do tonight. In your packet, you should have received the list of leases, and there's one that this is the same list as last year, except there's one exception, or one addition that's not here, and I guess it was not put on it, and that's the lease for Chelsea. There are 3 short-term leases involving patios for restaurants in town that are on town-owned land. That's Chentro, Old Post Tavern, and now Chelsea. Chelsea was just enacted this year. It's a very small area. It's just, I think, a couple hundred square feet maybe, but that should be added to this lease. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I did receive an email a couple days ago requesting some information, one of which was the square footage for the leases. And quite frankly, I took a quick look today. There's only one lease that has any square footage in it. That's the Pilot House lease. It's about 6,100 square feet. The rest of the leases, Child's Garden is a portion of Oldfield School. That's where the daycare is. Peter Grace, obviously, is the golf course superintendent, and there's a house up there that they allow him to rent. Pilot House is at Grassmere, and that's, I think, for children with special needs. The American Legion are at the parks. Those are buildings that are there that they've used forever. We talked about the patio leases. The Fairfield Municipal Credit Union, I believe, is in Old Town Hall. That's been there for quite a while. The EMS is at Mona Terrace. That's, I believe, at the Senior Center also. And then you have Haydu Farm, which is up in Greenfield Hill. That's open space land, and that's done in conjunction with the Conservation Commission, which has jurisdiction over that land. That's a $1 a year lease. So those are, in essence, our short-term leases. As far as I've seen, these leases have been in place for quite a while. The ones that call for a rent, such as Child's Garden and the patio leases, when they come up for renewal, we increase the rent. And it usually goes up 3% or so per year, or a fixed amount. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Or if there's anything you need to know, you feel free to give me a call. All the original leases are kept by the town clerk, and Connie Nolfi in the finance department keeps copies of all of them, and she is the person who kind of makes sure that we get paid on all of them. And as far as I know, all the leases are they're being paid in accordance with their terms. No questions? Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Representative Iacona? I'm sure it's for you, not for me. Yeah.
Is this on? Okay. Pam Iacono, District 9. Thank you very much for the report. I had a couple of further questions. Is it possible to also get just a listing and a copy of the long-term leases we have?
Yeah,
I know we approved
mean,
those, but is that
if you want-
something that you could give us?
There's a book about this thick. I mean, if you want copies of them, my suggestion is you either go to the town clerk's office or Connie Nolfi's office, and you can look at them. I mean, some of them are kind of extensive.
Do any of them exist in summary format, like this report that you have here?
Not as far as I know, but
Okay.
You know.
I'll follow up on that then. And then my other question is pertaining to the reports going forward, and you speaking to us tonight was very helpful. But in a matter of interest for those of us who are new, and just as for the record, is it possible that when we get these reports, you do a cover memo with them that explains some of the things that you just explained tonight, so that when we're reading this information, we're better prepared? For example, that you're addressing the ordinance, and why this information is included, because it's just rather vague to get a sheet with this information on it.
Sure.
And it seems to me that we really should have some kind of record of square footage for what we're doing. I mean, how else are you determining, for example, what the Old Post Tavern is paying for patio space versus the Chelsea or Centro? Certainly we should, a Child's Garden is taking up a portion of Mona Terrace, but we should have an idea of what that square footage is. And it would be extremely helpful to me, and I'm sure other members of this body, to know what that square footage is, just so we can have an idea of where we are and what we're paying. And do you have any information on what the current rates are for commercial space, just on average, what they're renting in town?
No, I
Or
don't. but
would you say that we're in line with those?
I don't think you can really compare a lot of this to downtown commercial space. I mean, it's really apples and oranges, and I think that's why the First Selectman negotiates these. And as I said, a lot of them have been in place for quite a while, so, things where the Haydu Farm gets $1 a year, I mean, there's really nothing comparable to that. And some of the things, I don't know the original reason why it was done the way it was done, but you can see some of the organizations pay nominal, and it's
Right.
just so that they have a place to go. So really, if I think if it's appropriate, I think that they look into whether it's comparable commercial space, but
Well, and that's where I'm really going with it. I mean, I'm certainly not, interested in trying to drive up rent on a nonprofit like the Pilot House, and I understand why we do those types of things, and I think that's important. But in the areas of economic development and, for example, our restaurant space, it begs the question, should we even be charging, or is that something that deters restaurants from coming here, or is it such a nominal fee that, it's not holding back restaurants from renting here? I think just so we can sort of have the background and understand what the First Selectman's thinking as he enters into these leases, that would be helpful to us.
we'll see what we can do. I mean, the patio leases are just sidewalks. They lease part of the sidewalk, so we charge rent.
Right.
And the rents were set quite a while ago. Chelsea, their rent was set comparable to the Centro and Old Post Tavern, which pay basically similar rents.
See, and that's important for us to know as members and as taxpayers, and that's not something that's listed on this report. So having that information would be beneficial. So if you can work that into your reports going forward, that would be really helpful.
We'll see what we can do, sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ed Bateson, District 3. Through you to, I guess, the town attorney, is this your report you prepared?
No, this is a report that's generated by Connie Nalfi.
Okay, can you have Connie just update it to include the Chelsea lease term, renewed lease term, annual rent, just to include this so that it can be inserted into the minutes and we can approve this next month?
We'll do that, yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the town attorney? Seeing none, let's move on to item number 5, which is to consider and act upon the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 16th, 2013. I have a motion to accept the minutes as they were presented. Representative Dean, seconded by Representative McCarthy. Were there any comments or changes, edits to the minutes as presented? Seeing none. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next item on our agenda, item number 6, is to hear, consider, and act upon the following reappointment of an alternate to the Harbor Management Commission as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. And that member is Benjamin Baker. This is a holdover from December. Mr. Baker appeared before both subcommittees, all subcommittee meetings last Wednesday, and I do not see Mr. Baker in the audience this evening. However, due to our less than clear policy, I'll take a motion to accept Mr. Baker's reappointment. Representative Braun, Timniak, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the body on the reappointment of Mr. Baker? Seeing none, all those in favor of reappointment of Mr. Baker, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Item number 7 on the call, Representative Bateson.
I'd like to make a motion to separate or divide Mr. Harry French out from this resolution.
Do I have a second to that? Representative Ambrose? Thank you. Again, Cheryl Beacock and Mark Foster appeared before the subcommittee meetings last week. All those, sorry, lost my train of thought. Is any questions or comments about the appointments? Representative Way.
Madam Moderator, should we not be reading the entire resolution for the benefit of what's being taped?
Yes, I will. Thank
I
you
just
for the,
think
thank
so
you
they
for
will
the,
know what they are being,
thank you. Item number 7 is to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments to the Harbor Management Commission as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Cheryl H. Beacock, 68 Davis Lane, term November 2013 to 2017. Mark S. Foster, 70 Cardinal Hill, term November 13 to November 17. We have a motion on the floor. Representative Iacono and Ambrose. Any comments or questions from the members of the body on the the initial appointments of these two members? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the body. All in favor of these two appointments to the Harbor Management Commission, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Could I ask that a motion be made to postpone the appointment of Harry French? Representative Bateson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. The reasoning for separating Mr. French was that he was not in attendance, and I believe he's out of the country for this meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to postpone the appointment of Mr. French to the Harbor Management Commission to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the RTM.
Thank you. That was a little awkward, but thank you. All seconds, Representative Marmion. Any comments from the body? From the public? All those in favor of postponing the appointment of Mr. French to the Harbor Management Commission, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. I'm sorry. Was that Representative Smay? Thank you. Thank you. You're hiding over there. Thank you very much for calling that to my attention. The next item on the call is number 8. To hear, consider, and act upon the following reappointment of an alternate to the Historic District Commission as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Phoebe S. Kaler, 801 Banks North Road, term November 2013 to 2018. Ms. Kaler appeared before our subcommittee meetings last week. Are there any comments? Sorry. I'd entertain a motion to accept this. Representative McCarthy, followed by Representative Hochberg. Thank you. Any comments or questions from the body? Seeing none from the body, any comments from the public? Thank you. Back to the body. All those in favor of reappointment of Phoebe Kaler to the Historic District Commission, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay, next item on the call, number 9, is to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that in accordance with a request from the Director of Public Works, the First Selectman is authorized to negotiate a successor interlocal agreement with other municipalities in the region, subject to the approval by the Fairfield Town Attorney, and further resolved that the First Selectman is authorized to enter into negotiations with Wheelabrator Bridgeport to reach a new solid waste disposal agreement. I have a motion to accept the item as presented. Representative Braun, seconded by Representative Way. Thank you. I don't see, Mr. Michelangelo will be here this evening.
Good evening. Joseph Michelangelo, Director of Public Works. This item was presented at the subcommittee meetings earlier last week, and the town of Fairfield is currently part of a interlocal agreement with a number of area towns to participate in bringing our trash to the burn plant in Bridgeport. The agreement sunsets on June 30th of 2014. So when the contract with Resco, Wheeler, Brader, and Bridgeport is over, it also, in effect, ends the interlocal agreement. So what this allows us to do is allow the first selectman acting for the town with other CEOs in the neighborhood, neighboring towns, some of the neighboring towns, to enter into interlocal agreement, negotiate a new contract with the burn facility in Bridgeport, to enter into a long-term contract for tipping fees to dispose of our waste, which go through our transfer station. Part of the initiative also, that plant produces electricity, which they've been selling wholesale on the market. We buy electricity from outside vendors, so part of the negotiations to get a lower tip fee is to package the sale of their energy and us purchasing this energy, which we feel will be favorable in our terms also. Previously, for the last 25 years, the Connecticut Resource Recovery Authority was involved in part of the agreement too, and they got a certain percentage of the tip fee just for their involvement. And even though that was very important on the initial part of the project 25 years ago in setting up the permitting, the siting, the ash landfills, all kinds of things, at this day and age, there's really no need for CRA to be involved, so they will not be part of this agreement, which will probably save us around $3 a ton in tipping fees.
Questions? Representative Braun?
Through you, Ms. Moderator, to Mr. Michelangelo. I just want to clarify a couple things, which I think I understood from our committee. We're going to be in a contract with 3 other towns. If you could let us know what the towns are, and if there's any issues between the other towns and the provider of the services, which is Wheeler Brader, I guess, which operates the Resco plant. How are those resolved? And my understanding is the economic benefit is $3. My question is that the whole tipping fee, or is that the component that's being waived? If it's not the whole fee, what is the whole fee? And then, as far as the kilowatt hours that we might be able to purchase or should be able to negotiate to purchase with the provider, we learned at committee that we're paying 6 cents. It could go down to 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Regular people pay 9 cents a kilowatt hour. If you could just sort of translate that. I think he said something like we use 260 million kilowatt hours a year, so every 1 cent of savings could be $260,000 a year. If you could just clarify some of those things, thanks.
Sure. The current towns that are included, that their bodies have endorsed their first selectmen or mayors to be involved in this interlocal agreement, are currently Westport, Bridgeport, Trumbull, Monroe, Easton, and Milford. Other towns that are going through the same process as we are now under consideration include Shelton, Orange, Woodbridge, Bethany, and possibly other towns. But those are the group that's forming right now. And that doesn't represent all of the waste which goes to the facility there. Depending on the size of the group, it'll probably be about from a third to 50%, depending on how many towns are included in our interlocal agreement. They also receive waste from the Danbury region independently from towns like East Haven and West Haven. So those are the towns currently involved in the interlocal group right now. So we would be the 7th town, and we expect other towns to go through the same procedure. So when we enter into a contract, there are no outstanding issues to be resolved. We are currently in an agreement now. None of the other towns has any issues which would cause, that are not welcome in the group that would cause problems. As far as our tip fee, one of the things about the tip fee now, so the waste in Fairfield goes to our transfer station. And that's, to compare it, that's sort of like the retail outlet. It is packed into trucks, delivered into Bridgeport in the larger trucks, and currently for that we pay $65 a ton, and that is currently tied, it's been tied to a CPI over the years. So some of the savings we hope to achieve on that is at least $3 through removing CRRA. because there are advantages to Wheelabrator, we feel they could offer us a lower fee than even the $3 reduction, because we are purchasing electricity from them at higher than they are selling it now. So that's something, so if we sign that agreement to purchase energy, the only benefit, we get the benefit of a lower electricity price, kilowatt price, but also hopefully a lower tipping fee, which will reduced. And the last thing is that the price will be tied to a CPI, and one of the things we'd like to negotiate is, instead of the annual increases being tied to the CPI, negotiate it to 70% of the CPI or 80% of the CPI, but that's the process of negotiations.
So is the tipping fee, is that the whole price we pay per ton, or is that, I don't understand what the $3 is versus the $65?
Well, our current price right now is $65, but out of the, Wheelabrator doesn't get that whole $65. CRR gets $3 off of that. So with them out of the picture, they could offer us a lower tipping fee. And I think I didn't answer the question on the electricity. One of the things about the electricity, one of the things we hope to negotiate in is that we'll buy electricity from them at the lowest published price in Connecticut. And it's good for us because we'd be able to buy it cheaper than any place else we could get it from, whether it's from Integris or TransCanada. So it'll be the lowest published price, lower than this. But conversely, it's more than they get selling their electricity from. So, 6 cents is lower than we could hope to buy power for next year. So that would be a price that hopefully would be good for us and result in cheap electricity and a lower tipping fee.
Thank you.
Representative McCarthy.
Through you, Madam Moderator, to the Town Attorney. As I read these two resolutions, in each case, it authorizes the first selectman to be on point to negotiate with Interlocal and then again with Wheelabrator. And what I'd like to know is, should I read any, they're not worded exactly the same, and I'm wondering if there's any significance to that fact. Is there any nuance of meaning here that we should be aware of?
I think it's probably better to ask Mr. Michelangelo that question, but it looks to me like these are both related. It's part of the same thing. The interlocal, I assume, is with all the different groups. Wheelabrator is going to be the provider, but maybe Mr. Michelangelo could clarify it. I haven't seen any of this yet, incidentally. I assume that once the agreements are all negotiated and everybody's happy, that all the town attorneys will be vetting them to make sure that they're just legal, basically.
That would be fine. I just want to know if there's any significant, is there any difference between authorized to negotiate and enter into negotiations? And if there's no difference, why are they not worded exactly the same?
I think that's just wording. It
That's
means
fine.
the same thing, yeah.
But I have to ask.
Negotiate and enter into. I think the bottom line, though, is I believe it's got to come back to this body, probably to all the legislatures for approval once it's all done.
Joe, is that your understanding?
Correct. My understanding is it would come back to the body.
It's the same thing. It's just worded a little bit differently, yeah.
I have to ask.
Representative Bateson.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Given the town attorney's statement, I'd like to propose an amendment to both paragraphs in there to reflect that both these agreements, once negotiated by the first selectman, need to be approved by this body. So therefore, after the first paragraph and ending Fairfield Town Attorney, I'd like to insert "and the RTM," so that it would read a successor interlocal agreement with other municipalities in the region, subject to approval by the Fairfield Town Attorney and the RTM, semicolon, and, going into the second paragraph, an amendment at the end of agreement, subject to approval by the RTM.
I think, quite frankly, Mr. Bateson, it's probably not necessary. Just pursuant to charter, it's a contract with the town. It would have to come back here to be approved.
You could say that, but there's no harm in the amendment.
A second to that motion, Representative Hurley. That was quick. Comments or questions in regards to this motion? Amendment, sorry. Seeing none. So, if you would, I'm going to reread this now as it's amended. Resolved that in accordance with the request from the Director of Public Works, the First Selectman is authorized to negotiate a successor interlocal agreement with other municipalities in the region, comma, subject to the approval by the Fairfield Town Attorney, semicolon, and the RTM, semicolon. Further resolved that the First Selectman is authorized to enter into negotiations with Wheelabrator Bridgeport to reach a new solid waste disposal agreement and subject to the approval by the RTM. Is that correct? Any further comments or questions from this body? Representative Donovan.
John Donovan, District 1. Through you, moderator, to Mr. Michelangelo. At the subcommittee meeting earlier this week, I think I heard it was 67 a ton. You're saying 65 a ton. Can you just clarify?
I'm going to ask Mike Zambruski, the Solid Waste Director, to identify exactly what we're paying today.
I looked at our current bill, and we have, right now, it's $65.12 per ton for the trash, plus an additional $3 a ton for CRA. That's their contractual, so it's $68.12. The 65 was originally it was 64. They increased the rate that we're paying them plus their contract fee. So right now, moving on, without CRA, we can save $100,000 off of our 35,000 tons of trash.
I'm sorry. Yes. Very good.
Oh, it was a discussion on the amendment.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was out of order.
Well, it makes two of us, right? Any comments or questions regarding the amendment? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the amendment so that, and shall I reread this for you? No? Okay. All those in favor of the amended resolution as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Representative Schwartz? Marks? Thank you. Now, back to the motion, the resolution. Any further questions on it? Representative Jacob.
Ellen Jacob, District 9. Through the moderator to probably Mike Zambruski, but Joe Michelangelo, either one. The question is, I got a little lost in the terms of the actual years, in the terms of these contracts or agreements. The first statement that I understood from committee hearings was that the Wheelabrator contract term would be one 10-year term and then 2 renewal terms of 5 years. But then when I read the literature that we got in committee accompanying the resolution, it looked as though the actual energy terms would be set and committed to every 2 years. So how do they work together?
Correct. So the contract for the solid waste disposals are mutually agreeable upon a 10-year term. The energy contract is every 2 years. We have the option to opt out. And once again, these are just very preliminary negotiations. The interlocal hasn't been formed yet. So the CEOs of the towns have met 2 or 3 times to my knowledge, and this is some of the goals involved. But once again, there hasn't been any, these can be flexible. It's not locked in.
Thank you.
Representative Schwartz.
Hal Schwartz, District 7. Through you, Madam Moderator, to Mr. Zembrowski. Can you give us those numbers again, please? $68. Now, you said that if we subtract the $3 fee, you said we were going to save how much money?
$100,000
A year?
based on the, yes.
For 20 years, based on the contract that we're talking about.
Without the contract with CRA, without their administrative.
Please, Mr. Zembrowski, if you would, please.
Without their, with this current contract that we have, without their contract services, we're saving $100,000 a year.
So,
Just from CRA.
just from CRA.
Just from CRA.
So, and that depends on the price, because right now you said we're paying Wheeler Brader $65 and $3 for CRA.
We actually pay CRA the whole
$68.12.
12.
Right.
We're going to pay Wheeler Brader direct, so we're cutting out the middleman, which instantly we save $100,000 not having their contract services.
And we're pretty sure that that contract won't stay at $68, that we'll be able to, that contract will be at the $65 rate that we're basically paying them now?
I think we're going lower.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions from the body? Representative Farnan.
Representative Brian Farnan, District 10. I am very excited about this initiative. My only kind of concern is I know with the new commissioner of DEEP, waste management, anaerobic digestion are really big initiatives that will likely be pushed in the next year. So my only one concern would be is the length of term that we would potentially be locked in. Have you guys thought about that with the likely changing landscape from the state over the next couple years?
I'm very familiar with anaerobic digestion. It's a process that we use at our wastewater treatment plant to digest the sludge. And even though that is possible for municipal solid waste, it's very far out on the fringe. It's not the norm in any place in the U.S. that I know of. I think there's an outfit in Canada, some in Germany, some in England. But we have a 10-year window that we're agreed to. And once again, the landscape of the municipal solid waste facility in Connecticut, there are only 5 burn plants to bring it to waste energy. There are no other places to bring municipal solid waste in Connecticut. Your only other option right now is to truck it out of state. So given the current landscape, we feel that a 10-year window is more than reasonable given the situation.
Any further questions from the body? Seeing none, any comments from the public? If you would be so kind as to come to the microphone and state your name for the record.
Donald Peterson, Galloping Hill Road. My comment is I haven't heard any thoughts about exploring other options. It seems to me after the 25-year initial contract, the debt service should be paid, and we might be looking for a lower price.
Well, we are seeking a lower price from Wheeler Brader, but once again, that's the negotiable one. The only other option, if the negotiations fail, is we would put the waste out to bid to get it hauled away. But because Connecticut is a net exporter of waste, the waste energy plants don't have any capacity. So most likely, if the negotiations fail and we don't bring it to Wheelabrator and we put it out to bid, the end result would most likely be it would trucked out of state. But hopefully we could enter into an agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Michelangelo. Any further comments from the public? I'm sorry, Mr. Zimbruski.
Yes. If we do truck it out of state and it's dumped at a landfill, and at some point in time that landfill has hazardous waste, we own that landfill, and we will be paying for it for the next 20, 30 years. So that's why we are electing not to go to a landfill. Some of our towns around us are still paying for hazardous waste they found back in the 70s and 80s at landfills.
Thank you. Any questions from the body? Seeing none, I'm going to go back and we're going to vote on the resolution, and I will read it. Is to hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Resolved that in accordance with a request from the Director of Public Works, the First Selectman is authorized to negotiate a successor interlocal agreement with other municipalities in the region, subject to the approval by the Fairfield Town Attorney and by the RTM. Further resolved that the First Selectman is authorized to enter into negotiations with Wheelabrator Bridgeport to reach a new solid waste disposal agreement and subject to approval by the RTM. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Michelangelo and Mr. Zimbruski. Next item is item number 10. We have representatives. Is this working? Board of Education. To hear, consider, and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Education. Resolve that the following changes to Article 19 Pension Program of the Town of Fairfield Pension Plan provisions in the Information Technology Technicians Labor Agreement negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and Fairfield Board of Education Information Technology Technicians be and hereby are approved. All employees hired after implementation date of this collective bargaining agreement shall participate in a 401A-type pension plan with no eligibility or vesting rights in the town's existing pension system. The employees shall be required to contribute at least 4% of base salary to the plan and may contribute up to the maximum allowed by law. The town shall match the employee's contribution up to a maximum of 4% of base salary, and the town's contribution shall not vest until the employee has continuously employed 5 years. I'll entertain a motion to accept it as written. Representative Dean, second Representative Smay. Any questions from the members of the body? Representative Schindler.
Nathan Schindler, District 2. Madam Moderator, I'd like to note that there appears to be a Scrivener's error in this motion. And the last line, the town's contribution shall no vest, I believe should read not vest. So
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to amend this motion.
Accept, all in favor. Second is Peter Ambrose. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I think this is really just a housekeeping error, if I could. Can we move forward? I think both of the resolutions have this housekeeping error. It was brought to our attention last week, and it has been resolved by the attorneys that wrote the resolution. So, are there any questions? Representative McKenzie.
Dave McKenzie, District 3. I'm in complete agreement with doing this. I just wanted to know if we could see the provisions for the rest of the contract. Even though we don't vote on that, it's part of the budget of the BOE, and I'd like to see what those terms are.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, the contract is not yet signed. It's pending approval of the RTM on this provision, and once it is signed, it's public, and we can share it with the moderator, and she could distribute it to everybody if the RTM was of interest.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Hurley.
Michael Hurley, District 1. Not a question. I just wanted to say thank you to Ann Leffert, who's not here tonight. We had a number of questions during the subcommittee meetings last week, and we really got what I think was a really excellent memo from her. And hopefully going forward, this is a model that BOE and other town departments could use. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for or on this resolution? Seeing none, any questions from the public? Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Gerber.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Bill Gerber, District 4. I'm going to support this. However, I don't think anyone should feel great about taking away benefits from people who are making $35,000 to $50,000 a year. I mean, this is a major part of their benefit structure. However, I am going to support it because right now we have a discount rate in our pension assumptions of somewhere north of 7%, which I believe puts our town at risk, like many municipalities around the country. And I don't want to do that. And I think we're going to be moving in that direction as we go forward. However, I do believe that we're going to have to attract good talent, people that are training special ed trainers. I mean, special people are working with our children, people are managing our IT systems, and that this may impact our ability to attract talent. So I do have a question through Madam Moderator to the HR department. I'm just wondering, once we adjust this benefit, are we going to be competitive with other towns, or are we expecting that we're going to have to increase our salaries to make up for that benefit?
I should have also said Philip Dwyer, Chairman of the Board of Education. Let me take a stab at that question, and maybe the attorney who also with Durant, Nichols, and Houston, who negotiates on our behalf on labor contracts, but also handles other school boards, may have a viewpoint on this as well. I think more and more towns are looking to go to defined contribution and away from defined benefit. So to the extent that we keep track, we keep up with the market, then I wouldn't think it will have an impact on us from that perspective. And the attorney doesn't disagree with me and has no further comment.
I'm sorry, did you get your answer? Thank you. Representative Donovan.
Thank you, John Donovan, District 1. Just following up on the comment, I think it's great that you're getting to market rates. I think it's important that we note that this is 32 people in these two departments. It's only for new hires, so the impact of it is kind of minimal going forward. How do you see this happening with existing employees? And actually, following up on Mr. Gerber's comments, how would that impact your negotiations?
I'll answer the second question, and maybe the attorney can talk about the impact on current employees. And if I can, one moment. I am here to replace Dr. David Title, who would be here and wants to send his apologies. Many of you know his son, Jack, has been in Yale New Haven Hospital, and he is on hospital duty tonight. And if it weren't for that, he would be here. We have, as a Board of Ed, have for the longest time, 4 or 5 years, believed that the town's position, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM, has been to try and work with our bargaining units to move toward a defined contribution plan. So when we have negotiated with them, we have negotiated on your behalf because these are employees who are part of a town pension plan, not part of the certified pension plan, which is handled by the state and doesn't have any Fairfield tax dollars in it. The majority of our staff are handled in the state because the majority of our staff are certified staff. And so we will continue to represent that as the interest of the town as we meet with the other 3 bargaining units who are part of the town pension plan. And I believe that because 2 have already agreed, pending your vote tonight, that the other 3 would give further consideration to that and that. But nonetheless, it is always a negotiation. I've only had the 3 years of these discussions, and I have been always impressed that the staff of the school district, whether they're in one bargaining unit or another, always put the students' needs first, and that the negotiations, while we may start out in different positions, eventually we come to an agreement, and I have to actually thank the employees of these 2 bargaining units who have agreed to this change, because they have agreed to it and have voted to support it, because ultimately they agreed that the contract was helpful to the employees and helpful to the district.
Hi, I'm Josh Wyatt. I'm from Durant Nichols, Houston. If I understand the question is what benefit is to the current employees, not to the prospective employees. Is that correct?
Well, this is, right, so this is 2 new employees, where the impact of...
I'm sorry, Representative Donovan, would you please step to the microphone?
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, so the question is, given that this department is of 32 people, this difference only affects new hires. So the impact of this is going to take a certain amount of time. Given that you were comparing it to private industry, where in private industry, many times you've seen a complete switch over to the pension, where basically the existing pension stays with the employees. All employees then go to defined contribution. How do you see the impact of this over time? And then from a comparative standpoint, following up on Mr. Gerber's questions, how does that help in terms of keeping employees, or is it more challenging to hire versus what other towns are doing?
I can't speak to comparables for the area. With respect to the impact on current employees, it's my understanding they're going to maintain the pension. The part of the bargain for this was an increase in pay, and that's my understanding of what the benefit is to them. I'm sorry if that's not as responsive as you'd like. I just want to
Very helpful, and I think it followed up on some of yours. So basically, this was additional pay versus this benefit. Was overall, when you look at that discussion, was this more expensive?
It's my understanding there was a savings as a result of this. Yeah. Sure.
With all contracts, you talk about compensation, you talk about benefits, and you talk about working conditions. That essentially is the discussion that you have. This contract achieved the percentage increase or slightly below that was the target for the Board of Ed, and is a percentage increase that is comparable to other unions that we've been negotiating with and with other towns. It was not a higher percentage increase to compensate for the pension. The salary increase is comparable to other contracted bargaining units and other towns.
Any further questions from the body? Representative, excuse me, Kevin.
Representative Hopkins from District 7. I don't believe that we're making the proper analysis on this when we compare ourselves to other towns and what these workers might be able to do if they go to other towns. I think you have to think about what these other workers will do if they're not given the opportunity for a pension. These people make so little money as it is. One of the few reasons why they would take this job is the opportunity for a pension. If you take it away from them, if there's no opportunity for it, The good people who can really do a good job are just going to go find something else to do. So it's not just a matter of what the other towns are. Long term, you know, we're not going to make a lot, we're not going to save a lot of money in the short term. It's long term. In the long term, what's going to happen is if these people have to pay for their own pensions through deductions in their own payroll, they're going to come back and look for more money because that's what they're going to need. The reason why pensions were adopted in this country in the first place was because employers wanted to retain good workers, and the best way to do that financially was to have a pension instead of just paying them more. So I think long term, we're probably going to end up paying more. People are just getting a little too excited about how much money we're going to save with this. In the long term, I don't think we're going to save anything. In the short term, we know we're not going to save anything either.
Representative McKenzie.
Dave McKenzie, District 3. On that last point, the key thing for the town is to have predictability of what their expenses are. And when you have a pension, you don't know because it has a cost of living escalator with it. You don't know what the salary specifically will be in the future. So it's important that the town get in a position where they know they can tell year to year what their obligations are in salary, and I should add also in medical. And that's why I think this is an important step to make. And I think we'll still attract very good people because working for the town is a good deal. Thank you.
Any further questions from the members of the body? Members of the public? Seeing none, back to the body. Resolved that the following changes to Article 19 Pension Program of the Town of Fairfield Pension Plan provisions in the Information Technology Technicians Labor Agreement negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and Fairfield Board of Education, Information Technology Technicians be and hereby are approved. All employees hired after implementation date of this collective bargaining agreement shall participate in a 401A type pension plan with no eligibility or vesting rights in the town's existing pension plan. The employee shall be required to contribute at least 4% of base salary to the plan, and may contribute up to the maximum allowed by law. The town shall match the employee's contribution up to a maximum of 4% of base salary. The town's contribution shall not vest until the employee has continuously employed 5 years. All those in favor, as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Representative Hopkins? Abstentions? Thank you. Moving on to item number 11. To hear and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the Board of Education. Resolve that... I'm sorry, but Kevin, this is the first time the public would be able to hear it, so I'm going to read it this time. Thank you. Resolve that the following changes to Article 14 Pension Program of the Town of Fairfield Pension Plan provisions in the Special Education Trainers Labor Agreement negotiated by and between the Town of Fairfield and Fairfield Board of Education Special Education Trainers be and hereby are approved. All employees hired after implementation date of this collective bargaining agreement shall participate in a 401A type pension plan with no eligibility or vesting rights in the town's existing pension plan system. The employee shall be required to contribute at least 4% of base salary to the plan and may contribute up to the maximum allowed by law. The town shall match the employee's contribution up to a maximum of 4% of base salary. The town's contribution shall not vest until the employee has been continuously employed 5 years. Again, the housekeeping, we changed the word no to not. Any questions from members of the body? Any questions from members of the public? Back to the body. Any questions? Representative Dwyer? I'm sorry. How about a motion to accept it?
You're dealing with the amendment, right?
No, there's no amendment. This is the next. There's no amendment. It's housekeeping. Thank you, Mr. Dwyer. I'll entertain a motion. I saw Representative Dean Caffarelli. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience with me this evening. All those in favor of accepting item number 11 as read signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. Before you pack up this evening, item number 12, to consider and act upon any further other matters presented in said meeting and which may be properly acted upon under the rules of the representative town meeting. Seeing none, I would like to announce, if you do not know, that Representative Sunman is not here with us this evening because on Friday, his son, Alexander Eric, was born, weighing in at 9 pounds, 1 ounce. I want to extend our best wishes to Eric and Jen and little brother Max. Thank you. 9 pounds, yes. May I entertain a motion to Peter Ambrose. Caffrell.